In the summer of 1587, a group of 117 English men, women, and children arrived on the shores of Roanoke Island, a small piece of land off the coast of what is now North Carolina. They were the first English settlers ever to attempt to establish a permanent colony in the New World. They built homes. They planted crops. One of them gave birth to the first English child ever born on American soil, a girl named Virginia Dare. And then, sometime between 1587 and 1590, every single one of them vanished. Not a body. Not a grave. Not a sign of struggle or violence. Just an empty settlement and a single word carved into a wooden post. That word was CROATOAN. And in the more than 4 centuries since those 117 people disappeared, no one has ever been able to fully explain what happened to them. The colony at Roanoke was the brainchild of Sir Walter Raleigh, the famous English explorer and courtier who had obtained a charter from Queen Elizabeth I to establish English settlements in North America. The first attempt at Roanoke in 1585 had ended in failure when the colonists, facing starvation and conflict with local Native American tribes, abandoned the settlement and returned to England. The second attempt, in 1587, was meant to be different. This time the colonists brought families. They brought women and children. They brought everything necessary for a permanent settlement. Their governor was a man named John White, an experienced explorer who had been to Roanoke before and who knew the territory and its people. Almost immediately after arriving, the colonists encountered serious problems. Relations with the local CROATOAN tribe were friendly, but other neighboring tribes were hostile, and a colonist was killed within weeks of landing. The settlement was struggling, and John White was persuaded by the colonists to sail back to England to request urgent supplies and reinforcements. He left in late 1587, promising to return within a few months. His granddaughter, Virginia Dare, was barely a month old when he last saw her. White did not return within a few months. England was at war with Spain, and the entire English naval fleet had been commandeered to fight the Spanish Armada. No ships could be spared for a resupply mission to a small colonial outpost in North America. White was stranded in England, powerless to help the people he had left behind, including his own daughter and infant granddaughter. He did not manage to return to Roanoke until August of 1590, 3 full years after he had left. What he found when he arrived destroyed him. The settlement was completely abandoned. The houses had been taken apart and removed, not burned or destroyed in a raid, but carefully dismantled. The heavy equipment the colonists had brought from England was buried in the ground. There were no bodies. There were no graves. There was no sign of disease or violence. The colonists had not been massacred. They had not died of starvation where they stood. They had gone somewhere, carefully and deliberately, taking almost nothing with them. The only clue John White found was carved into the wooden post of the fort's entrance. One word. CROATOAN. Nearby, on a tree, were carved the letters CRO, as if someone had started writing the word and then been interrupted. According to a pre-arranged signal that White had established with the colonists before he left, a cross carved into a tree would indicate that the colonists had left in distress. There was no cross. The word CROATOAN appeared to be a message, not a warning. White believed the colonists had gone to CROATOAN Island, approximately 50 miles to the south, where the friendly CROATOAN tribe lived. But violent storms prevented him from sailing there, and he was forced to return to England. He never went back to look for the colony. He spent the rest of his life not knowing what happened to his daughter and granddaughter. So where did 117 people go? The most widely accepted theory among modern researchers is that the colonists integrated with the CROATOAN people and other neighboring Native American tribes. The CROATOAN tribe, later known as the Lumbee people, have oral traditions that describe English settlers joining their community, and some historical accounts describe Lumbee individuals in later centuries with distinctly European features and surnames that had no Native American origin. DNA testing of some Lumbee descendants has suggested possible European ancestry, though the results have been contested and are not conclusive. Genetic and archaeological research at CROATOAN Island has found some European artifacts at sites that date to the right period, including items consistent with English colonial presence. In 2020, a major research project announced that archaeological excavations on CROATOAN Island had uncovered significant evidence of English colonial presence at a site that matches the period of the lost colony. Researchers found what appeared to be the remains of a structure that could be consistent with English construction, along with artifacts that suggest European contact. The evidence is tantalizing but not definitive. The site has not yet been fully excavated, and the conclusions remain preliminary. A second theory suggests that the colonists attempted to sail back to England themselves in a small boat and were lost at sea. The colonists had a small vessel capable of coastal travel, and some researchers have proposed that they attempted to make the crossing and perished. But this theory does not explain the careful dismantling of the settlement, the buried equipment, or the carved message pointing to a specific location rather than to the open ocean. A third theory involves violence, suggesting that the colonists were attacked and killed by one of the hostile tribes in the region, with their bodies hidden or disposed of. But John White found no evidence of violence, and the methodical nature of the settlement's dismantling is inconsistent with a sudden violent attack. The fate of Virginia Dare, the first English child born in America, has captured the imagination of generations of historians, writers, and storytellers. She was not yet 3 years old when her grandfather returned to find the colony empty. Whatever happened to the colonists happened to her as well. She may have grown up among the CROATOAN people. She may have died in childhood from disease or hardship. No record of her fate has ever been found, and her name has become a symbol of the entire mystery of Roanoke. 400 years of searching. Dozens of archaeological expeditions. Modern DNA testing and satellite imaging. And still, the fate of 117 people who walked off the edge of recorded history remains officially undetermined. They came to build the first permanent English settlement in America. They disappeared, leaving behind one word. A word that points to an answer, but not loudly enough for anyone to hear it clearly across 4 centuries of silence. CROATOAN. Subscribe to Lost Chronicle, and every week we will take you deeper into the cases that history could not explain.